Is the UK really a safe place to live anymore? The shocking truth might just surprise you. In the last decade, violent crime rates have soared by nearly 20% across major cities. More than 250,000 people are now homeless, with many forced to live on the streets, exposed to dangers every day. And if you think that's bad, the UK's police force has lost over 20% of its officers in the past few years, leaving many areas with fewer resources to tackle crime. But it's not just about crime. Have you heard of the mental health crisis gripping the nation? With 1 in 4 people in the UK suffering from some form of mental illness, it's no wonder that substance abuse is at an all-time high. Meanwhile, overcrowded cities are creating environments where stress levels are through the roof, pushing people to their limits. What about social media? Believe it or not, it's not just a place for influencers. Hate speech and violent extremism are spreading faster than ever, fueling even more violence in our communities. And let's not forget about the housing crisis, where millions of people are struggling to find affordable homes, leading to more instability and fear. So what's really going on? Is the UK becoming less safe, or is it just the way we're looking at it? Stay tuned as we dive into 10 shocking reasons why living in the UK might not be as safe as you think. Want to know if it's still a safe place to call home? Let's find out. Number 1. Rise in violent crime. In recent years, violent crime has become one of the most pressing concerns for residents across the UK. From knife crime in cities like London to gang-related violence in urban areas, there's no denying that the safety of everyday life is being threatened by an increase in violence. But what's behind this rise? And what does it mean for those living in the UK? The numbers speak for themselves. In 2023 alone, incidents of knife crime surged by 20% compared to previous years. Major cities such as London, Birmingham, and Manchester are seeing sharp increases in violent crimes, often linked to gangs fighting for control of drug markets and territory. While these types of crimes are not evenly distributed across the UK, areas with high rates of poverty and unemployment tend to experience higher levels of violence. The consequences of this uptick in violence extend beyond the obvious fear of personal harm. It affects entire communities. Families living in neighbourhoods plagued by violent crime often face ongoing anxiety, limiting their sense of safety in their own homes. Young people, in particular, are vulnerable, being both victims and, in some tragic cases, perpetrators. A sense of normalcy becomes increasingly difficult to achieve when danger feels like it's lurking at every corner. Imagine walking down a familiar street and suddenly being aware that you could be a victim of violence at any moment. It's an unsettling feeling that many now live with on a daily basis. So, what can you do to protect yourself? Being aware of your surroundings, avoiding risky areas at night, and making sure to stay in groups when possible are simple yet effective steps to reduce your risk. While these steps don't guarantee safety, they provide a layer of defense in a world where violent crime seems on the rise. The surge in violent crime is a serious issue, and it's crucial to stay informed and prepared as the safety landscape continues to shift. Number 2. Terrorism threats. While terrorism is not a daily occurrence, the threat of terrorism remains a significant concern for many in the UK. Although the UK has made significant strides in counter-terrorism efforts, the risk of an attack still looms over major cities and public events. As unsettling as it may be, the reality is that terrorist organisations continue to target countries like the UK due to its international influence and diverse population. The UK's terror threat level is currently set at substantial, which means an attack is likely but not imminent. This status has remained for several years, showing that the potential for terrorist activities, whether homegrown or inspired by global networks, is persistent. London, in particular, has seen its fair share of incidents, such as the London Bridge attack in 2019, reminding citizens that terrorism is a real and present danger. One key factor contributing to the threat is the rise of radicalisation. The internet has made it easier for extremist ideologies to spread and recruit individuals, especially among vulnerable groups. Many of these recruits can be lone wolves, individuals who act alone, making them harder to identify and stop before they strike. These lone actors, without large networks or clear warning signs, can cause significant harm in crowded places like public transport, shopping areas, and even music festivals. But what can you do to stay safe? Being vigilant in crowded places is crucial. Report any suspicious activity to authorities, whether it's a person acting oddly or a suspicious package left unattended. While we may never be able to predict or fully prevent such acts, remaining aware of your surroundings and knowing what to do in the event of an attack can make a difference. Familiarize yourself with escape routes and always follow official instructions during an emergency. Although terrorism remains a constant threat, the UK's security services are working tirelessly to keep the public safe. But staying alert is a responsibility we all share. Number 3. Economic inequality. Economic inequality has become a growing issue in the UK, and its impact is felt in more ways than one. As the wealth gap continues to widen, many are finding it increasingly difficult to make ends meet. This widening divide between the rich and poor not only contributes to social instability, but also fuels crime, mental health problems, and a sense of disillusionment among certain segments of the population. In 2023, poverty levels in the UK were higher than in previous decades, with more than 14 million people living below the poverty line. The increasing cost of living, particularly housing and energy prices, is a key factor in this economic struggle. For many, the dream of home ownership is slipping further out of reach, while rent prices in cities skyrocket. The lack of affordable housing and job insecurity are major contributors to the growing divide. Areas with high levels of economic deprivation often face higher crime rates, especially property crime and violent offences. Research has shown a direct correlation between poverty and crime, as people in financially strained situations may resort to unlawful activities as a means of survival. Youth unemployment, in particular, is a big concern, with many young people struggling to find stable jobs. This leads to frustration, and in some cases, the temptation to get involved in gang activity or other criminal behaviour. Moreover, the mental toll of living in poverty is significant. Anxiety about meeting basic needs, such as food and housing, can take a major toll on an individual's well-being. This can create a cycle of stress, poor mental health, and in some cases, violence. The lack of opportunities or hope for a better future leads to feelings of helplessness, which can amplify societal tensions. To counteract these issues, community-based initiatives that promote economic support and empowerment are essential. Government programs aimed at tackling poverty and increasing access to affordable housing can also help alleviate some of the pressures faced by disadvantaged communities. Until those changes are fully implemented, the effects of economic inequality will continue to reverberate across the nation, impacting both public safety and quality of life. Number 4. Deteriorating public services. One of the most pressing challenges that directly affects safety in the UK today is the deterioration of public services, particularly the police and emergency services. Over the past decade, funding cuts and staffing shortages have put immense pressure on these crucial services, leaving them struggling to meet the demands of the population. As a result, many areas are experiencing slower response times, fewer resources for crime prevention, and a general sense of inefficiency when it comes to handling emergencies. Police numbers in the UK have dropped by 20% since 2010, with many departments operating below their capacity. This means that law enforcement agencies are often stretched too thin to respond to incidents in a timely manner, leading to delayed investigations, fewer patrols, and potentially more missed opportunities to prevent crime. This has a significant impact on public safety, as criminals may feel emboldened knowing that there is less chance of being caught or deterred by police presence. The strain on emergency services is equally concerning. The NHS and ambulance services in particular are experiencing long waiting times, with some patients waiting hours for an ambulance or treatment, especially in the case of emergencies like heart attacks, strokes, or accidents. This delay can mean the difference between life and death. A recent report revealed that the average ambulance response time for critical emergencies in some regions was double the national target. The shortage of resources in these services can also affect mental health support, as services that are already overwhelmed struggle to cope with rising demand. Emergency mental health crises are becoming more common, but response times are often inadequate, leaving vulnerable individuals to wait for long periods without help. So, what can be done? Advocating for more funding, community support for local services, and even exploring alternative safety measures like neighbourhood watches can help bridge the gap. While government intervention is critical, individuals can also make a difference by engaging with local authorities and pushing for reforms that prioritise public safety. As public services continue to suffer, it's essential that we take action to ensure they are equipped to protect and serve the population effectively. Number 5. Housing crisis and homelessness. The ongoing housing crisis in the UK is one of the most pressing issues contributing to a sense of insecurity and instability for many residents. With housing prices at an all-time high and rent costs skyrocketing, more people are being pushed into a state of housing insecurity, while others are left with no choice but to face the harsh reality of homelessness. As of 2023, over 250,000 people in the UK are estimated to be homeless, and this number continues to grow. The lack of affordable housing is a key driver behind this problem. Home ownership, once seen as a reachable goal for many, has become increasingly out of reach, particularly for younger generations. As house prices soar, rental costs follow suit, making it incredibly difficult for many people, especially those on lower incomes, to find stable, affordable accommodation. This crisis isn't just about the lack of homes, it's about the impact it has on personal safety. Homelessness often leads to vulnerable individuals being exposed to the elements and at a higher risk for physical harm, substance abuse, and mental health issues. Streets become dangerous places where survival often takes priority over safety. Vulnerable populations, including women, young people, and veterans, are at an even higher risk of falling through the cracks, often facing violence or exploitation while living in temporary shelters or on the streets. For those fortunate enough to have a home, overcrowded living conditions are also becoming more common. Many people find themselves living in cramped flats or homes, which can contribute to stress and mental health issues, especially for families. The lack of space can lead to tensions and conflict, further eroding the sense of safety and comfort within one's own living environment. What can be done? It's crucial to increase the supply of affordable housing and invest in long-term solutions to address homelessness. Government programs and local charities are playing an essential role, but a collaborative effort between the public and private sectors is needed to ensure that housing becomes accessible for everyone. Until then, the housing crisis will continue to be a significant contributor to the UK's safety concerns. Number 6. Impact of social media on public safety. In today's digital age, social media is an undeniable force that shapes public perception, influences behaviour, and unfortunately, contributes to public safety risks. While platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram offer immense benefits in terms of communication and connectivity, they also create new challenges, particularly when it comes to spreading misinformation, encouraging online bullying, and fueling real-world violence. One of the most alarming ways that social media affects safety is by amplifying hate speech and extremist ideologies. Social media algorithms often prioritize sensational content, which can lead to the spread of radical views and violent rhetoric. In some cases, this can inspire lone wolf attacks, where individuals radicalized online carry out violent acts. The Christchurch shooting in 2019 is a tragic example of how social media can act as a breeding ground for extremism, where the shooter live-streamed the event and used the platform to further his agenda. In addition to radicalization, social media has also become a key player in mob violence and public disturbances. Groups can organize large-scale events or protests, sometimes with violent intentions, all through platforms like Facebook or TikTok. What begins as a gathering for a cause can quickly escalate into a dangerous situation due to the speed at which information spreads, often without proper oversight or accountability. Furthermore, cyberbullying and online harassment have also emerged as growing safety concerns. The anonymity provided by social media allows individuals to engage in harmful behavior without fear of repercussions, leading to mental health struggles for many young people. Tragically, some victims of online abuse have been driven to self-harm or suicide as a result. So how can we stay safe in a world dominated by social media? It's important to be aware of the content you engage with and share, report harmful behavior, and use privacy settings to limit exposure to potential threats. Education on digital literacy is also crucial to help individuals recognize misinformation and avoid falling into harmful online traps. While social media has its undeniable benefits, its impact on public safety cannot be overlooked. By staying informed and vigilant, we can navigate the digital world more safely. Number 7. Overcrowded cities and stress. Overcrowded cities are a growing issue in the UK, with major urban centres like London, Manchester, and Birmingham becoming more congested every year. As populations rise and space becomes increasingly limited, the effects of overcrowding on both mental health and public safety are becoming impossible to ignore. While urban living offers many advantages, the stresses of crowded environments often lead to heightened tensions, poorer quality of life, and even increased crime rates. One of the most immediate consequences of overcrowding is the strain it places on public infrastructure. Transport systems, in particular, are often overwhelmed, with packed buses and trains leading to longer commute times, delays, and increased frustration for travellers. This constant rush of people in tight spaces can lead to aggression and impatience, creating a tense atmosphere that negatively impacts the general mood of the population. Crowded shopping centres, parks, and public spaces can further exacerbate these feelings of frustration and anxiety, particularly during peak times. Overcrowding also puts a significant toll on mental health. Research has shown that living in highly populated areas can contribute to feelings of social isolation and helplessness. When there are too many people in close proximity, it can become difficult to find personal space or feel a sense of ownership over one's environment. This lack of personal space often leads to stress, anxiety, and depression, particularly among those who are already struggling with economic insecurity or other social issues. Furthermore, the anonymity of city life, where individuals can go unnoticed in a sea of people, can also contribute to social breakdowns. In tightly packed neighbourhoods, people often feel disconnected from their community, which can lead to increased crime rates. In overcrowded areas, people are more likely to engage in antisocial behaviours, knowing that their actions are less likely to be noticed or stopped. So how can we manage the effects of overcrowding? Urban planning and investment in public spaces that allow for better flow and more green areas are key solutions. Additionally, mindfulness practices and creating more opportunities for community building can help alleviate some of the stress associated with overcrowded environments. As cities continue to grow, it's important that we address the issues of overcrowding head-on to ensure that urban life remains both livable and safe for everyone. Number 8. Public health concerns. Public health is another major factor affecting the safety and well-being of individuals in the UK today. While advances in healthcare have certainly improved the overall quality of life, a number of ongoing and emerging health threats are contributing to widespread fear and vulnerability across the country. From pandemics and infectious diseases to mental health crises, the state of public health is a growing concern that impacts not only personal safety, but also the stability of society as a whole. The COVID-19 pandemic was a stark reminder of how vulnerable societies are to health crises. Although the worst of the pandemic seems to have passed, the effects are still being felt. The strain placed on the NHS highlighted serious gaps in the system, with long waiting lists for treatments, delayed surgeries, and overloaded emergency services. This has left many people feeling unsure about the ability of public health services to respond effectively in the future. Flu outbreaks, COVID-19 variants, and the rise of new diseases continue to present a real risk to public safety. However, the impact of public health concerns goes beyond infectious diseases. The mental health crisis is another pressing issue, exacerbated by factors like economic instability, rising crime, and social isolation. More people are seeking support for mental health issues than ever before, but the resources available are often insufficient. Anxiety, depression, and stress-related disorders are becoming increasingly prevalent, particularly among young people and those living in challenging environments. This emotional and psychological toll can lead to increased vulnerability to substance abuse, self-harm, and suicide. Additionally, environmental health issues like air pollution are contributing to chronic illnesses such as asthma, respiratory problems, and heart disease. People living in overcrowded urban areas are particularly susceptible, as poor air quality can significantly decrease overall life expectancy. So what can individuals do to mitigate these risks? Maintaining healthy habits like regular exercise, a balanced diet, and good mental health practices are key. Additionally, advocating for better healthcare resources and supporting policies aimed at improving public health systems can help ensure that these challenges are addressed at a societal level. With the health landscape continuing to evolve, it's clear that safeguarding public health is integral to maintaining safety and quality of life in the UK. Number 9. Drug abuse and substance addiction. Drug abuse and substance addiction are significant public safety concerns in the UK, contributing not only to health issues but also to social instability and crime. The rise in substance misuse, ranging from alcohol and cannabis to opioids and synthetic drugs, has led to an increase in violent crimes, domestic abuse, and mental health disorders. For many, addiction becomes a vicious cycle that affects not only the individual, but also their families, communities, and the wider society. The UK is grappling with rising numbers of people suffering from drug-related issues. According to recent statistics, nearly 1 in 10 adults in England have used illicit drugs in the past year, with younger generations particularly vulnerable. The rise in opioid abuse, including prescription painkillers and illegal substances like heroin, has sparked concern, with drug overdoses reaching record levels. The opioid crisis, which has taken hold in other parts of the world, is now becoming a more pronounced problem in the UK as well, putting extra strain on emergency services and healthcare providers. Addiction often leads to criminal behaviour, as those struggling with substance misuse may resort to theft or violent acts to feed their addiction. Drug dealers and gangs also thrive in areas where addiction is widespread, further fueling violence and lawlessness in communities. Crime rates in cities and towns with high levels of drug abuse tend to be disproportionately high, contributing to a constant sense of danger for residents. Moreover, addiction often fuels a cycle of mental health problems, including anxiety, depression, and paranoia, which can make individuals more prone to dangerous situations. Homelessness is another unfortunate consequence of addiction, as many people find themselves unable to maintain employment or stable housing due to their substance dependency. What can be done to address this crisis? Early intervention, education, and access to rehabilitation programs are key to breaking the cycle of addiction. Providing more resources for mental health care and support networks can also help individuals recover from substance abuse and reintegrate into society. It's essential to tackle the root causes of addiction, such as poverty, lack of opportunities, and social isolation to reduce the appeal and availability of substances. In the fight against drug abuse, the UK must continue to focus on both prevention and treatment to improve public safety and the well-being of those affected. Number 10. Political uncertainty and social division. Political uncertainty and social division are becoming increasingly significant concerns in the UK, further complicating the question of safety. As the country faces rising political tensions, shifts in public opinion, and uncertainty surrounding issues like Brexit, immigration, and economic policy, the effects of these divisions are spilling into the streets, eroding trust in government institutions and contributing to a sense of instability and social unrest. The aftermath of Brexit is a prime example of how political decisions can deeply divide a nation. The Brexit referendum in 2016 exposed deep rifts within British society, with people sharply divided over the country's relationship with the European Union. While the UK officially left the EU in 2020, the long-term political and social impacts of this decision continue to play out. The economic fallout, including rising costs, trade disruptions, and labour shortages, has fueled frustration and discontent among certain groups, contributing to a sense of alienation and economic insecurity. Political instability also breeds uncertainty about the country's future. The rise of populist and nationalist movements has amplified voices that seek to challenge established political systems, while many citizens feel that their concerns are being ignored or misrepresented by political elites. This breeds a sense of disillusionment with democracy and governance, which can lead to protests, civil disobedience, and even violent clashes. Social division is another byproduct of political instability. Issues like immigration have become points of contention, creating polarized communities that are increasingly divided by race, culture, and ideology. This division has a profound impact on public safety, as tensions between different groups often escalate into violent confrontations or hate crimes. In light of these challenges, how can we bridge the divide? Political reform, community engagement, and promoting open dialogue are essential to healing social wounds. By fostering an environment of understanding, collaboration, and unity, the UK can work towards creating a safer, more cohesive society despite political and social differences. Ultimately, as political uncertainty continues to shape the UK's future, addressing these divisions head-on is crucial to ensuring that the country remains a safe and stable place for everyone. As we've uncovered throughout this video, the question of whether the UK is still a safe place to live is not as simple as it may seem. With rising crime rates, the housing crisis, political division, and mental health struggles, the safety of everyday life in the UK is being tested in ways we've never seen before. While some of these challenges are deeply rooted, others are driven by rapid changes in society and technology. But no matter how overwhelming it may seem, understanding these issues is the first step toward making meaningful change. If you're feeling uncertain about the future, you're not alone. However, by acknowledging these pressing concerns, we can begin to have the conversations that matter. It's up to all of us to shape the future of our communities, one action, one vote, one conversation at a time. We've poured our time and effort into creating this video for you, and your voice matters. What do you think? Do you believe the UK is still a safe place to live? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's discuss. If you found this video eye-opening, hit that subscribe button. It's just one click, but it means the world to us, and it helps us bring you more in-depth videos like this one.